Hello and welcome back to another vlog. Uh, Dang it, my brain goes blank every time I start up. It's snowing out, as you can see, just lightly. And, well, okay, so this morning, 8 a.m. So it's around 12:30, just after lunch today, right now. And this morning at 8 a.m., I woke up early. Actually, I got up at 7, and I went down to acupuncture. I went to see the acupuncturist, and it was a total dud. It was a dud in the sense that I went to get an emotional release. So I'm dealing with CPTSD, complex PTSD. I've had it for a long time. It's really difficult to deal with. Basically, it's like your whole life has changed. The whole trajectory of your life has changed. And it screws with your thoughts too and your identity. It screws with you in major ways, in your nervous system. And also screws with your ability to process emotions healthily, properly. I don't know if there's a great way to put that. It's hard to phrase that. But basically, it's like hard to cry. It's really hard to cry. Sometimes you might even cry too much. Sometimes it's like the pain, it's like almost like a pain hits you. And at the same time, the conditioning in your body and your nervous system is like suppressed, do not cry. So it comes out in other ways. Like it'll come out in basically like shame, which is turn your head away, don't be around anyone, run away. Or like, red face, and like you don't want anyone to notice that you're gonna cry, or that you feel awful, or so it expresses in all these different ways. And one thing I really have always not liked is when people notice, or they say like, how are you doing, what's going on, how are you, is everything okay? Because those kind of solicitudes make me feel really uncomfortable, because I can't, it's hard to explain it, you understand? It's really hard to explain it, and it has been hard for my whole life, because it's complex in that it's tied to all these things. My mom was the source of all the issues. My dad, he wasn't there, he beat her up, and my mom, she had her own PTSD and everything she suppressed, and she was blowing up all the time, and it was just totally chaotic and crazy, and there was a lot of lying and everything, which actually I'll have another story about that I'll get to later. But so I went to go get this acupuncture place, and my goal, I was aiming for, can it provide an emotional release? So I heard this from my therapist, because I have a therapist. She's actually quite good, surprisingly. I haven't had a good therapist almost ever, but I'm with this one, and she's actually pretty decent. She's kind of like a scrambled social worker, but she's okay. I don't mind her too much. And she doesn't make me as like angry as a lot of the other therapists and stuff are, partly because she's more honest in a way. But anyway, so I went to this acupuncture because I wanted an emotional release. I wanted to cry, basically. I'm like aiming for crying. Like that's my goal. That's like a healthy thing, actually. I know it sounds weird, but actually, if you hold stuff inside and you're angry and you're bitter, and you're like, that anger and that bitterness is like covering up fear, and it's covering up, pain, and it's covering up everything. And, you're blunting how you feel, even if it's unconsciously. But there's all these other things that are telling you, like, you need to somehow process or release or cry. Then it's like, okay, well, I need to actually release this, probably through tears, you know what I'm saying? And so they give you an intake form at the chiropractor, or most places do this. They give you an intake form, and they ask you like a ton of questions. Sometimes they're like really thorough, where they ask you so many questions. And I can kind of understand why, but the thing is that not all of them even care or read it or know what to do with those answers. I'm talking about health professionals in general. people in the healing professions, and there's so many. There's physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, doctors, naturopaths, even sometimes therapists will ask questions like this, but all kind of medical professionals, sometimes they have really long intake forms, and I've gone to most of those and more, and sometimes they don't even really read the information or know what to do with it or acknowledge it like you think they will. And maybe it's because they're not trained, maybe it's because they're burnt out, maybe it's because they have too much to deal with. But anyways, they do solicit for the information. And I answered it, and I said, I said on there specifically, looking for an emotional release. I have complex PTSD due to family issues. And I was very upfront about what I want, honest about it. And, I didn't make it like really complicated or overdone, but I gave I think the right amount of information to know what I'm looking for. And I went there, and this lady looked almost, I wouldn't say worse, but she looked kind of like, her face was kind of like, I see this in people's faces, that their face is kind of like a pallor, it has a pallor to it, like a sallow paleness, kind of like, almost like, and then bags, like deep bags, and then their eyes, basically their eyes look fried out, kind of like this. In a way, I might not be replicating it that great, but they just kind of look like numbed and dull. And she kind of looked like that in a way. And, they're basically, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. She just did acupuncture. Like, I was like, it's around my face. Like, I need a release, I carry it in my face, my jaw. That's the area. And she put like a couple needles in my jaw, one on each side. She put one or two in my forehead. She put them on my wrists, my feet. She had them on my legs. Put one in my chest, top of my head, and I don't know. I felt something. I felt a wave of, I wouldn't say pleasure, but I felt kind of like a wave of, almost like a sort of a warmth wave midway through. I was laying there for 25 minutes and she left the room, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I know they probably know about different things, to produce a different, response within the nervous system and the body. But it's I'm not looking for another calm down technique. I'm not looking for another relaxation technique. I'm not looking for all that. I'm actually looking for a release. You understand? And there's a difference there. A lot of people, and this is actually a really important difference that I think pisses off a lot of people. And it's almost because it can really gaslight you in a way. When you go for help from somebody and they don't actually listen to what you want to say, or even allow you the space to express. That's the big key term, express, through, crying or talking about it or whatever. They just straight away go to calm down techniques. This is actually the training for a lot of these, mental health and different types of professionals. A lot of their training, the ones that are not on the functional side especially, on the functional side they have slightly different training where they're working with the body and the functions of the body, and they actually kind of learn about the nervous system in a different way. The mental health and whatever, they're always trying to teach you coping skills. They're always trying to teach you breathing techniques. They're always trying to teach you reframing techniques. They're always trying to teach you a bunch of stuff. Generally what they call top down is I'm looking for bottom up, and bottom up isn't a calm down technique. It's I'm trying to cry here. I'm trying to express, pain through crying. That's what crying is. Duh. And so she didn't really help with that. She wasn't able to, or she didn't understand, or I felt kind of it was somewhat pointless. Maybe not entirely pointless, but she did miss the mark. as to what I was asking for. So, yeah, she said, how was that? And also, they're very defensive, all these people, with their questions, which is, it's also another weird thing too. I just have to point it out. So they they advertise, okay? They advertise. This place especially, it was like, it said like mental health and mental and physical therapies. And then on their bios, if you read their bios, they're talking about, I'm trauma informed, I'm blah, 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 I'm, this, that, and the other. And then if you even take any of the trainings that they take, they learn all of this stuff. The truth is, honestly, the truth is that a lot of them are afraid. And I don't like to be mean or anything, because they are afraid, but it's almost a weird thing because they're drawn to these healing fields. I was too. Because they want to fix themselves or fix other people. Sometimes both. And when it gets to actually doing that, it's actually really hard. Let me tell you, it's actually really hard. It is very hard. Almost from the premise, too. Almost from the premise of quote-unquote fixing is almost wrong. The wrong premise. But that's like the best way to describe it. And a more accurate way to put it would be, healing is like balancing. It's like balancing. It's like, okay, well, your diet's out of whack. You need to balance it. Okay, your spine's messed up. Well, we need to correct, the imbalance, We need, your emotions are out of whack. Well, we need to allow the emotions to come out, and that way they'll naturally rebalance. The body is able to rebalance, and I believe God is a huge part of that as well. But I felt like, yeah, didn't really hit the mark. I think something that annoys me, I just have to put this out there, about a lot of this like treatment stuff, is that they really make you feel worse in a way, because you're expending energy to get a treatment. You already don't feel good. There's something wrong. You're expending energy, putting yourself out there. You're actually getting re-triggered because they ask you all this stuff at the start of the sessions and everything, and your hopes are rising. Your expectations are rising that I'm gonna be treated. You're like, oh, finally, I'm in safe hands, and this person knows what they're doing, because that's how they advertise. That's what they say, that they know what they're doing. They can help. That's literally why they're getting paid as well. It's not just like, some stranger on the street who comes up to you asking you, can I help you? It's like you're going to them for help. They're advertising that they're helpers, and they're getting paid for it. And then they're like not totally able to help or understand the issue or everything. And I've been on the other side, and it's really hard to actually help. And the other thing is too, is that they're afraid too. Seriously, they are afraid, like liability wise, and like what they'll say, because they're afraid of getting a repercussion in some way if they do release emotion. So that's why there's always this window of tolerance talk. There's always this safety and everything talk. And even from those models, they're almost incorrect. Like, the window of tolerance is a true and correct statement, but the way people use it is incorrect. The window of tolerance model says that everybody's nervous system can operate within a window. So your emotions, you can get high emotions, low emotions, but it's within something that you can tolerate. And if you go outside of that, then it's almost like you are outside of your tolerance, outside of what you can control. That's when you would start crying. That's when you would start getting really angry, freaking out. That's when, at an extreme point, you would start dissociating. That's what the freeze, fawn, and flop are within the nervous system. That's like a dissociation is like a separation, basically, where your body almost like leaves your mind, or your mind leaves your body in a sense, and is now operating from outside of it, almost like an observer, and disconnected from the feelings of the body because it's too intense. So it's like a last line of protection that the body automatically does. And then the very last line would be like unconsciousness, going unconscious, blacking out. That's like the flop response, they say. So anyways, they use this window of tolerance model, and they say, well, we have to stay inside the window of tolerance. What they actually try and do, a lot of these therapists and treatments and everything, they want to push you to the edge. Well, that's kind of like, that would even be like the preferred goal. It's like, find what this person's window of tolerance is, be very careful with them, keep them safe and everything, and then just slowly put them to the edge of the window of tolerance where they're gonna, maybe feel something and maybe start to get misty-eyed, or, they might have like a soft cry or whatever. And, then they'll come back down, and then it's like, and you support them through that. And it's like, it's very gentle, and it's very, they have trainings where they talk about, it's so tough what people have to go through, and trauma, and, equality and injustice, and everybody is equal, and we're just trying to support, and we're just trying to nurture, and we're just trying to heal. And there are literally presentations that are just like that, where they talk like that. But the truth is, it's like that window of tolerance model is not even really a great model. It can work, but what your goal is, if you're actually thinking about it like what your nervous system is wanting, your nervous system is wanting to go out of the window of tolerance. It's like fighting to stay within for a protective reason. So your nervous system, it gets trained, it gets trained by previous trauma or time in society. What will cause you shame? What will cause you embarrassment? What will cause you hurt or pain that you don't want to feel? Your nervous system learns to regulate within that so that you don't experience those things. And then your nervous system actually wants to get out of that and like start crying, start bawling, processing. That's what your nervous system's trying to do, is processing. And it is energy. It's like pent up or trapped energy. And once it does that, and it's like able to do that, it comes back. It comes back to like a baseline or a stable point. Now, the thing is that everybody's afraid of somebody freaking out or crying or bawling or something like that. But your nervous system can only do that for so long. It takes a lot of energy to do that. And that's the point. Like that's what I'm looking for, is like, the feeling like it's okay, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? There was actually a book I'm thinking about getting and maybe giving to my therapist to use on me. One thing I don't like, actually, is having to do all of the work. That actually pisses me off. Like, what I mean by that is all the work by myself. Because it's like when you go to a professional, you think, this person went to school. This person took a ton of trainings. Why the fuck can they not help? Like, why aren't they the one that knows what to say to help me? And it's like, a lot of times they don't really, a lot of times it's kind of stupid. Like 50%, I took a psychology degree. I have an undergraduate honors degree in psychology. And what I noticed is like 50% of psychology, a lot of it is just bull crap. Like at least 50% of it is bull crap. And there's true stuff in there, but a lot of it is baloney. Seriously. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, that's my big long rant on that. So, yeah, I don't know what I'll do next. I might look into that book. There's some book, I forget what it was called, but I was looking up different stuff. And I saw that there was some book. I was looking up, I was actually looking at the map of consciousness stuff. And there was some book that somebody was saying that I guess it tested high on the scale on the map of consciousness. I know that sounds weird, but without getting too much into it, it's supposed to be pretty good. So I might try and look into that. And if I get the book, I think it's pretty simple. I think it's just questions. It's like, are you ready to let this go? You know, what are you holding on to? Are you ready to let it go? Can you do that right now? I think it's questions like that. And actually, those questions are pretty good. So I might look into that book and see if I can get it. But, oh yeah, I just got to touch on, again, the defensiveness aspect of just Canadians in general, but a lot of like health professionals and everything. Basically, it's a culture of defensiveness at this point. It is so defensive, seriously. It's also passive aggressive, but it's so defensive because everybody's like kind of afraid at this point in a weird way. And I'll say why. There is so much information. There's so much information. And now people are in different bubbles essentially, and there's not much cross-pollination or connection even. And people get into bubbles and they just kind of go insane. Like, seriously, people go kind of crazy in their own bubble. And it's even hard to even visualize what I mean. But what I mean by that is that you can feel such a type of way by reading books and by watching videos and by taking trainings where you really want to get out there and do what these powerful messages are talking about. Heal a bunch of people, create a business, get accolades, become, you know, some sort of distinguished person. You know, have your own story where you can talk about your own story as well, about how you had some triggering moment and then, or like inspirational moment when you were young, and then you harnessed all your own trauma, and then you went and then you created your own business and you rose above, and now you're in like the kind of like knowledgeable position, and people are coming to you and you're giving a bunch of advice, and people are really grateful, and the world is sort of healing and everything is kind of going better. It's like that can make people go nuts. And that's like the personal development rabbit hole or trap in a sense. Although there's different flavors to it. You know, if you're more greedy or if you're more seeking fame or if you're more whatever, but that is the personal development almost like trap or rabbit hole. And it's freaky, seriously. And it's kind of sad too. You know, I fell down there when I was younger, but it's like when you come from like a crappy childhood or a crappy background, you really do want to escape, seriously. And your mind thinks of how. And then it's looking for stuff, so you're open to it. And then there are many different things available, and a lot of times they cost money, and it's like it's selling you on something. So a lot of people get sold, seriously. And it gets to be kind of sad because it takes a long time and you never really get to where you're actually trying to go. You don't really get to that peace, you don't really get to that resolution. You know, you get to those places with God. You know, that's why I'm always saying God is the answer. And then the funny thing about all this personal development stuff is that a lot of them leave out the God part, or they speak of it in vague terms, in essentially like a Gnostic way. Gnosticism is like knowledge. So that's like secrets. So a lot of people fall into Gnosticism, stuff like Freemasonry, that's completely evil. But they fall into Gnosticism because it's like, what do I not know? This other person kind of seems to really know something. I just have to keep listening. Oh, they're saying stuff that's kind of true, and they really hook you, and you get hooked, and it's like, it's really evil. And they basically they stratify it, and they talk in ways that you're gonna level up, that you're gonna get to another degree, that you're gonna get to another level. And what people, whether they know it or not, they're really seeking power. They're really seeking, like, it's kind of interesting. It's like two different things. It's like they're seeking like an alleviation, or like a freedom from the suffering that they feel. And then they're also seeking like to fulfill drives and to feel power. Like they don't want to people don't want to feel powerless. They don't want to feel helpless. They don't want to feel awful, you know. And it can create some weird stuff. And I don't agree with Gnosticism in general, because it's darkness. What I mean by that is it's secrecy. Secrets are in the dark, and God is the light. You know, God doesn't hide like that. God is completely perfect, and He's complete light, complete love. And a lot of that Gnosticism, even getting into the weird territory of personal development where they leave out God, or they talk about God in vague ways, and they start talking about manifestation, they start talking about New Age stuff, is like, no, like that's not good, you know. I think that's the thing behind The Secret. It's like the manifestation or whatever, and then they start talking about intention, and it really screws with people. Like seriously, it can really screw with you, because then you start feeling, at least in my case, you start feeling like self-blame, like it's my fault because my intentions were off, and it gets really divorced from reality. That's why I actually prefer talking about reality, but that's how I came to talk about all this like bubble stuff, how people get into different bubbles. That is the reality now, is that people are really bubbled up, seriously. And you know, it is the way it is. I'm not going to say it ought to be, but that the Western civilization is declining right now. And it is the way it is, because there are evil people. There's like evil groups that are trying to destroy Western civilization. It's on purpose. So that is the truth. And a lot of people, they don't even want to acknowledge it, because in some way they think that it's a not positive, it's like a negative mindset or not positive outlook or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, it's the way it is, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it ought to be that. But anyway, so yeah, I guess I was trying to talk about the defensiveness aspect that a lot of these health practitioners have now. And I feel like it is, you know, it's there's many reasons for that attitude, but I do think it is, you know, in a lot of ways it's because of this splitting of different realities, and now, you know, people are more defensive as a result. And so the only way to behave that is kind of like socially acceptable, especially I notice this for women do this so much, but men behave this way too, is actually being extremely positive, but like fake positive, like positivity, like, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm good, how are you? And it's like so fake. And another thing is that people actually are preemptively positive. It's like, and the way I think about it is, because if you're preemptively positive, then the other person is a jerk, because you were just trying to be nice. So there's a plausible deniability aspect to it as well. And it's just like, dude, I'm so sick of that. I really don't like that. It's like so fake. It's so weird. It's so hard to have a real conversation. It's just strange. Okay. So, what next? Well, I re-downloaded, this is just more about what's going on in my life. I re-downloaded dating apps. I kind of hate downloading them, but I'm very lonely. And honestly, I hate them. But it's like when you're really lonely, it's hard. And one thing I noticed, I don't know, I don't really have like a great hope for them. But one thing I noticed is that Yeah, I don't know. There's like no winning almost. It's like very difficult to win. Um, so maybe I'm just retarded, probably. But I think the way to win is to talk to women in real life. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of rough because yeah, it's actually really rough. Seriously, I don't want to go off too much, but yeah, it's really grim. I think there's hope, but it is pretty grim. I think it's funny the dating thing. What's going on is that men are not really able to be men as much anymore. And that sounds weird, I know, but what I mean is that women are more like men now. And also it's always a weird game too. It's always like a weird banter game. I actually don't like banter that much. Um yeah, it kind of sucks, seriously. Kind of super sucks. But I'm going to a new church. Maybe maybe there'll be a girl. Maybe there'll be a woman there. I don't know. I haven't really seen too many there. Maybe I saw a couple, but it's pretty tough. Seriously though, on these apps, I think everybody knows that. But if you don't know that, it's way more men than women on the dating apps, and yeah, it's very low trust as well, and everybody's attention span is fried, and also it's like super fake as hell too, and yeah, so it's not that great. um so anyway, yeah, it's funny, I got rejected already a few times. I almost kind of like it. I know that sounds so messed up, but I almost like it because I'm being a little bit more authentic. I'm saying like, do you believe in any conspiracy theories? And I asked one girl, "Are you Christian?" And I got like unblocked or blocked instantly by these people. It's like kind of funny to me, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like one thing is that I noticed is that men and women really do not think the same. Like it's I like again, maybe I'm a retard for not realizing this now until now. I'm 30 years old, but they wrote these old books like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And then there's like tons and tons of dating whatever, but it really is true that men and women do not think the same. Seriously. It's strange because you might think, and that we've been brainwashed so much to think that yeah, we're all equal, quote unquote. But it's just like if you're not stupid, you know that men and women aren't equal. Like, but there's like it's like a strange game. Anyway, yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, my mom is leaving pretty soon. She'd been staying with me because she's homeless, and she's gonna go house sit for my aunt and uncle. They have like two houses, one in another province, and my mom will go and house sit for the winter until I think May. It's December now, and so she'll be gone for like 5 months, and I don't think she has an idea what she's gonna do after that. But she might go back to being homeless. I don't know. She might go back to living in a car, but um, yeah, it's really tough actually having your parents be so unstable because on like a subconscious level you don't feel very good about it. Like I don't feel good about that. It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's freaking embarrassing. Like, when your parents are not doing well, you're not going to be doing well because it's really hard to do well while your parents are like unstable. And yeah, there was actually this thing I was going to talk about. My mom, she compulsively lied yesterday. And I'm just saying it just as an illustration, as like how weird it is. Like, and I really don't like, I don't like to be like boo-hoo, you know, but this is like a vlog and this is about my life. But this is truly how it is. This is a great example about narcissistic lying or compulsive lying. Lying as a means of survival, I would say, too. But, so I was sitting there on the computer, and it's close to my kitchen. It's like in my kitchen, basically. And my mom was cooking something on the stove. And it started to smell like burning. And then it like really started to smell like burning, and the whole house was smelling like burning. And I said, "Are you burning something?" And she said, "No." I was like, "What are you talking, like, what are you cooking?" She said, "Eggs." She's like, "No, it's not burning." And she's like scrubbing the pan really hard after she finished cooking to clean it. And I'm just like, you know, sometimes I wonder, like, do people think I'm retarded or what? But actually I kind of realize it's more with them a lot of times too. But then I said, "The whole house smells like burning. Can you open the door? Let some fresh air in?" She's like, "I didn't burn anything." "Okay, I'll open the door." And then she opens the door, and I was like, why are you lying?" And she's like, "I'm not lying." And I was like, "Why does it smell like burning then?" She's like, "I don't know." And then I was like, "So you're cooking something, the whole house smells like burning, and you're not lying?" And she says, "I don't know." And she's like, "Okay, I figured it out. Something dripped onto the bottom of the pan and then it went into the burner." I wasn't lying. And I was like, "Yes, you did lie. That's like, you compulsively lied. You know, you just made that, like, you just like said something different now, but like a minute ago you just lied." And then she's like, "No, I just didn't understand." And I was like, "Well, okay, that's different. You didn't comprehend it, but you immediately lied instead of saying I don't comprehend or I don't know." And then she's like, she argued a bit more, and she's like, "Just let me eat my eggs. I just want to go eat my eggs." And I was like, "Okay, but that's a lie. Like, I don't understand that. Like, that's like a compulsive lie. It's a weird, like, what's with the weird lies?" But honestly, that's just an example of what's been going on for like forever, basically. Like, it's like immediate, instant response is to lie about stuff that's going wrong. And it's like, I believe it's from being in survival mode that people would do this. I used to lie all the time, to be honest, too. And I think, you know, I probably got it from my family and my mom. But it's like a compulsive lie. It's because I think to survive. You know what I mean? And I mean survival on some abstract level. Maybe like an ego level. I don't really like talking about the ego. But on maybe like some sort of emotional or ego level, it's maybe about survival, I'd say. Yeah, and like a constant fear of if anything goes wrong, or if I do